Arsenal apparently have had an offer for Leandro Trossard from Saudi Arabia, and it must be tempting. Apparently, The Athletic have offered a think piece and spoken about Sesko and our transfer window in total and what it was. And apparently, Nico Williams has finally spoken on his future. As you know, he was linked with Arsenal, Chelsea, and at one point, it seemed like he was set to join Barcelona. Big up yourselves for tuning in. Don't forget to smash the like button, turn on your notification bells, leave a comment because I'm sure the creative juices are flowing. And let's get exactly into everything that concerns the football club we know and love, people. Even though, you know, it's been a bit of a mixed August, hasn't it, people? And as usual, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good night to all of you lot tuned in. Unless your name is Chris Kavanagh or, you know, you're a family member of that referee and his shoddy performance in the Arsenal draw against Brighton. But ironically, keeping up the theme with Brighton indirectly, you know, I know Trossard plays for Arsenal, but he was a Brighton man, and I thought he would bag against his former club. It wasn't to be. Romano has said exclusive Saudi side Al Ittihad. Forgive me for mispronunciations. Submit proposal in the region of 35 million for Leandro Trossard. Decision up to Arsenal, as he's always been an important player for Arsenal. Official proposal arrives ahead of Saudi Pro League deadline, and apparently they're keeping to look for a new winger. Now, for me, I'm on the fence with this, and I would say my first thing would be, in theory, if you signed a younger sort of Trossard model, if you signed probably two bodies, if we got a winger and a striker, if we had the depth that we needed in the squad, more so up front, in theory, I'd be open to this, but we don't have that really and truly. And Trossard, for me, is one of our best players. He's a great first-team starter / rotationary player. I know he didn't do anything against Brighton. Again, when he signed for us midway through his first season, he got 10 or so assists. Last season, he got double figures in the Premier League for goals. Goals win games. Bukayo Saka brings that. Kai Havertz has, started this season as he kept it go. He's kicked off this new season as he left the second half of the season. If them two aren't getting the numbers in Kai Havertz and Saka, who is? It's probably Trossard, really. Goals win games. It's as simple as that. Trossard is an experienced member of the side, and I think he's absolutely vital. And you know the amount of games we've got, people. There's a reality where if we go to where we want to go, whether we do or not, including the pre-season games, all the way in the Champs, the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Champions League, and obviously the 38 game schedule in the Premier League, there's around 70 odd games. We need Trossard. Now, obviously, if we in an ideal world, while I wouldn't actually want to sell Trossard, if we did all the business we needed to do, for me personally, and this offer came in July, then there's a serious offer to make, because it does present you with the chance to maybe recoup some sort of fees for that you spent for Trossard. And at 29 turning 30, there might not be too many opportunities to do such. Although we did hear a few months ago, Trossard is actually in line allegedly to get improved terms at Arsenal Football Club. For me, if we were to sell him now, we've already got poor depth. If you sold him now, for me, you can kiss goodbye to any sort of whatever we're trying to do in this season. For me personally, the Athletics' David Ornstein has simultaneously spoken, and he said Arsenal have turned down the informal proposal for Trossard. Now, Trossard, if he wants to go, I guess there's a decision to make. There's a lot of money that's got to probably be enticing. Arsenal have turned down an informal proposal from Al Ittihad, again butchering it, to sign Leandro Trossard. The Saudi Pro League side made a preliminary offer of a season-long loan, including a fee of 5 million, with an obligation to buy next summer for a price between 20 to 25 million. However, Arsenal made it clear the 29-year-old Belgium international is not for sale at any price, as remains a key part of Mikel Arteta's side. He's got a number of years left on his deal, people. He joined us in January 2023, as you know, people, and he's got 19 goals and 12 assists in 71 appearances. Unless your name is Bukayo Saka, really nobody could talk to him. I know Kai Havertz is formed towards the second half of last season, and so far you've got that. Again, I know we've brought in Sterling, but Sterling, even if he has the best season ever at Arsenal Football Club, he's not a permanent Arsenal player. He's here for a loan. Does not make sense to get rid of Trossard at this moment in time, people. So yeah, whether Trossard starts games or is off the bench, he's a vital member, and it makes 0% sense for me. Again, some talking points are flowing in relation to Raheem Sterling. While Chelsea were insistent on a loan fee for Sterling, Arsenal made it clear that it wasn't happening for them. Ultimately, Chelsea's need to get players out trumped everything else in discussions. I mean, mean, considering that Sterling wasn't our first choice, clearly we weren't able to get the targets we wanted. To get a versatile, experienced Premier League winner like Sterling, I'm for it. And I guess it puts Edu in great light that the loan makes sense. I don't agree with this risk-free and low risk. He's still paying money. You still need the player to make it to make an impact. We still need him to obviously do what he can do in his small way to help us collectively achieve stuff. But if the loan makes sense, it makes sense. Apparently, we felt our negotiation position was strong and we were prepared to keep both Eddie Nketiah and Reece Nelson. Nelson, who's departed on loan to Fulham after the Ipswich move broke down. As you know, Eddie Nketiah joined Crystal Palace. It resulted in a deal where no loan fee was paid, and Arsenal are now paying far less than 50% of Sterling's 325 grand a week wages. Some close to the talks insist it's as little as 100 grand a week. Fair enough. So 100 grand from the point of a week to the point of Sterling signing to when the loan is finished, that's the true cost. And I mean, it is what it is. We could do a lot better, we could do a lot worse, but to have Trossard and Sterling, who are 29 years of age, to go with Moreno, who's 28, and Jorginho and Partey, we've got some experienced players that are here for right now. So yeah, big up that really. A player has had their deal terminated at Arsenal. Omar Rekic, who's almost a forgotten man. He's no longer an Arsenal player as his contract was terminated by mutual consent. He's now available as a free agent after his specific request to leave and try a new chapter. Now, Martial and Rabiot, the French internationals, are free agents. I'm not saying we should sign them. Just let me know where you lot are, because you could argue we could do with another versatile attacker. We could do with another central midfielder. I'm more likely to have a bias towards bringing Martial despite his injuries, but we probably need another midfielder in terms of Rabiot because Declan Rice is suspended, because Double M Mikel Merino is currently injured with a shoulder problem at this moment, and we're hoping to God Partey and Jorginho are able to stay fit, or we're really in trouble. We're couple any nonsense. And in fact, going into the Spurs game, I really want to see Kai Havertz play up front, and I would probably go Jorginho, Partey, and Odegaard. But how much does that work? For me, you could throw in Ethan, but I could understand if for that game Kai Havertz goes into midfield next to Thomas Partey, and a big if Gabriel Jesus is fit, or maybe Trossard in the false nine, or even Raheem Sterling, really, because the fixture list is starting to get real now. You've got Spurs, Champions League, Manchester City. It's now a case of 2 games a week, 3 games every 10 days. I don't know if our squad's able to cope, but we've made our bed. We have to lie in it now, people. Moving away from that, let's see exactly what The Athletic said. The Athletic have done a think piece. As you can see, there's a lot to go over in relation to Arsenal's transfer dealings, people. Sterling loan terms and goalkeeper frustration. I mean, we didn't get our first choice goalkeeping targets. Big up Neto, who also joined us on loan on deadline day. Obviously, the talking points is going to be Raheem Sterling. The need for an additional forward was met with the loan of Raheem Sterling from Chelsea, a low-risk move that could potentially have a significant upside. When Arsenal's attempts to prize away goalkeeper Garcia from Espanyol hit an impasse, they found a similarly pragmatic answer, swiftly wrapping up a loan deal for veteran shot-stopper Neto. According to sources who, like all of those spoken to for this article, were kept anonymous to protect relationships, Arsenal staff are particularly enthused about the arrival of Sterling. I am as well. They feel he can add versatility, experience, and quality to every position across the front line. I don't think any Arsenal fan disagrees. He's also a proven winner with 4 Premier League titles already to his name, which is true. Sources with knowledge of the deal say Arsenal struck a deal on favourable terms. They'll pay significantly less than the 50% of his salary for the duration of his loan. Chelsea were contacted for comment by The Athletic. A week ago, Arsenal thought they may go without their primary attacking targets in the window, Benjamin Sesko and Nico Williams, which I like that. Sesko could have tied in long term and in the meantime been a rotationary option, but he was keen to keep his development at Leipzig. Nico Williams, as much as it would have been a signal intent, and it's easy for me to say, could we have wrapped up the deal before the Euros? At the end of the day, he signed a new contract. He then had the Euros. He's clearly been enticed by Barcelona, so he was always on the back foot, people. Ultimately, we tried doesn't go far. Hopefully we can try for them next summer, and in an ideal world we get them. We tried, it don't mean anything. We know we got 91 Premier League goals, so I don't think we need goal scorers, but evidently we do. Let's be brightly honest, people. We do. You look at the December period last season. I know Kai Havertz scored against Brighton, but you look at him and Saka not quite able to do it beyond that point. You could do with another attacker away from the Sterling sorts, people. We know we're linked with Kingsley Coleman. It didn't happen, so it depends, because I think there's been some good deals in terms of outgoings and some we could have done better. Technically, we've addressed all areas, but it feels like we've added some quality additions, not necessarily looked after the depth. And where you look at the goalkeeping targets, where you look at Nico Williams and Sesko, we didn't really land our top targets per se, excluding Calafiori and Moreno, really. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'd give the window a 6 out of 10 if I'm honest. I think Calafiori, Moreno, 10 out of 10 signings. I applaud the club for getting Sterling because it's better than nothing, but this isn't how they wanted it to go. So it didn't go to plan, much like our last 2 Premier League title attempts, people. For his part, Sterling did not hide his admiration for Arsenal or Mikel Arteta. It was an ideal move for the 29-year-old who has trained away from his teammates since being left out of Chelsea's matchday squad for the Manchester City game, and subsequently in the 3 games so far in the Premier League, he's played no part. Wonder how good his fitness is. Apparently, he sees Arsenal as providing a solid platform to regain his England spot. Of course, he's got a young family and he's living in London. We're a big club, and he's got a great relationship with the manager, Mikel Arteta, going back to the City days. We all know Mikel Arteta once said his time with Raheem was exceptional. They had a big, strong relationship, and he had a good season in terms of output, or period, better yet, with Mikel Arteta. We all know we've got injuries at the moment with Gabriel Jesus, Mikel Moreno. We technically add Tomiyasu to the mix and just marry that with squad. It's jarring. Apparently, Arsenal entered into a transfer merry-go-round that involves Sterling and close friends Jadon Sancho and Nelson. Sancho obviously has gone to Chelsea. Nelson's obviously departed because we probably got Sterling through the window. We all know Richard Garlick. We won't waste time. That's your job in the transfer market to get things done. Arsenal end the window having signed goalkeepers David Raya, Neto, and defender Calafiori, Merino, and Sterling. They believe they've improved Arteta's options in every outfield department, which is true, standing them in good stead for another title challenge. Yeah, but getting over the line, I'm not sure. The sales they've made, meanwhile, ensure they'll continue to have flexibility in the market moving forward. I mean, the bank sheet is positive, whatever I have to say, I guess. Hopefully, in years to come or next season, that gives us something. But it always feels like we go into the summer fairly bullish, or we're told to be bullish. We do some good things, but you're expecting a bit more. I know us fans can be a bit greedy. Ultimately, it doesn't happen. And then it feels like next summer is the blockbuster one, the game changer, where we're not necessarily going to sign big money players, but sign players that really kick things on, people. On Thursday, we found ourselves scrambling over the goalkeeping situation. As we know, there's been a lot of goalkeepers at this football club under Mikel Arteta. You know, Aaron Ramsdale, David Raya, Matt Turner, Leno, Emi Martinez. There's been a bit of a merry-go-round. We knew we was obviously going to lose Aaron Ramsdale. We knew David Raya's move was going to be made permanent. I personally feel David Raya's been our best player in the last 3 games. Big up Kai Havertz and Saka as well. We knew Karl Hein was convinced to sign a new deal, but was going to head out on loan, people. So yeah, it's a bit boring in that. We know in addition to Garcia, we did not get Dan Bentley's move from Wolves to anything really. Arsenal contacted Garcia and explained they would only proceed with a deal once they were confident of selling Ramsdale. At the time, Garcia had a 25 million in brackets 21 million pounds release clause in his contract, which rose to 30 million euros in August. Throughout their pursuit, Arsenal were assured they would be able to acquire Garcia for significantly less than the clause, which didn't make sense. You left it late. Espanyol obviously doing what they're doing with the goalie. They need an inconvenience fee. So either pay the release clause or F off, people. And obviously, things probably didn't go to plan where the speed of getting Aaron Ramsdale out the club. To be fair, I did think he'd leave on loan. So I applaud the club for getting him gone to Southampton. And I think he was a boyhood Southampton fan. I could be wrong. So I wish him all the best. But another case of not getting your top targets. And to be fair to Garcia, and you look at the Wigan keeper, I'm sure, you never know. You can't rule out David Raya meeting the fate previous goalkeepers met. But if we signed the Wigan goalie at 22 years of age and this Espanyol guy at 23, who's just emerging into first team football, really, how long would he be prepared to sit on the bench without playing somewhere? It's a bit different from Bournemouth's Neto, who's 35. With the greatest of respect, I'm not saying he's happy. On Thursday, it became clear that despite their best efforts, Arsenal could not get Espanyol to budge. But in recent months, Kanya had vetoed several alternative goalkeepers proposed by the club. Arsenal were faced with a dilemma: pay 30 million for Garcia or, kind of ruin Ramsdale's move to the South Coast, people. And obviously, Ramsdale at that point already had a medical. Edu knows Neto from his time in previous roles, people. Credit to Bournemouth, they were able to help us out, really. Apparently, we're looking at Chelsea's Marcus Bettinelli, who's, I think he's played for Charlton as well. He would have come as a homegrown guy as well. Sam Tickle apparently rejected the move, rightly so, because I don't think he rejected Arsenal in total. It's just the man wants to play games. He was Wigan's player of the season. Why do you want to sit on the bench? Tommy Setford at 18 years of age is going to have to be our third choice goalkeeper, which is good for him. And he'd probably supplement that by playing at under 21s level, assuming we're not travelling when the academy's playing. So I have to see. Arsenal's overarching strategy for the summer window was to raise the level of the squad. I think we've raised the level of the starting 11 with Calafiori and Moreno, and indirectly, if whoever's not starting raises the squad. But have we really raised the squad? Not really, if I'm honest with you. Thus, lifting the squad's floor and giving Arteta a wider pool of reliable players to work with. Last season, the first 2 minutes were largely shared among just 14 trusted players. Could you argue it's the same then, really and truly? Like, off the top of my head, of course, David Raya. If anything happens to David Raya, Neto plays. So fair enough. We'll include Neto, even though he's a goalie. But you've got Raya, Neto, Benjamin White, Timber, Calafiori, Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Jorginho, Partey. Who else have you got? Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Sterling now, Mikel Merino, Zinchenko to a slight degree, Tomiyasu as well. So surely it's about 14, 15 players the same way. It's not quite, I would love 20, but I think we need to get to the 15 to 17 mark. Kivior's there, but is he necessarily trusted? I don't know. Tierney's technically part of the club still, but yeah, people. We know we needed to sell. At the end of the day, I'm sure the PSR and the FFP and all of that, we have to have a positive net spend. I know people that want to see us excel from a footballing point of view, and I hate to refer to football as a business, probably don't care for that, but you get the point. Arsenal's desire to sell players this summer was well known within the footballing industry, so much that several agents took it upon themselves to seek out buyers for those deemed dispensable, which agents should be doing for their clients, which are the players, whether you're Ramsdale, Nelson, Eddie, etc. Vet Prep Smith Rowe. Premier League clubs were approached by third-party agents offering them Arsenal players for sale with the details of Arsenal's demands and associated salaries. In April, Edu and Sporting Director Jason Atto flew to Saudi Arabia to build relationships with potential buyers. Who did we sell to Saudi? Apparently, in the early weeks of the window, Edu had several meetings in London regarding the futures of players, people, which, again, it sounds great in this talking point, and I'm not dissing Edu, but this is what you should be doing, much less in the transfer market. So I'm trying to skip through stuff. Arsenal were prepared to be more flexible. Obviously, Sambi Lokonga has joined Sevilla with an option to buy, which, again, you hope they take that out. Lazio have signed Nuno Tavares with an obligation, people. When it comes to incomings, one of Arsenal's primary targets was Sesko of Leipzig. Arsenal tracked the 21-year-old Slovenian striker's progress for years, and the presence of the 65 million release clause in his Leipzig contract made for an attractive market opportunity. Sesko was also intrigued by the prospect of joining Arsenal. Although Man United and Chelsea showed significant interest in the forward, the Emirates Stadium was his preferred destination if he was to leave Germany. Hopefully, when you're ready next summer, I don't know how, if there is still a release clause in his deal, if it's changed, we can do something. The biggest issue for Arsenal was timing. Sesko wanted his future resolved before the start of the Euros on June the 14th. Arsenal, however, preferred any major expenditure to fall within the 2024-25 accounting period after the June 30th deadline, which makes sense. What's more, Arsenal wanted to offset any additions with sales to sign Sesko. They needed assurance that one of their existing strikers would leave at the early stage of the window. None of the interest in Eddie had matured into serious negotiations. There was some tentative interest in Gabriel Jesus, but nothing concrete. I do wonder, though, not that I'm criticizing the big money additions or the incomings that have made a difference, but indirectly, as much as I praise Arteta and Edu, have some signings that haven't worked impacted our ability to move fast? Because this tells me Sesko was saying, you know what, I'm on staying at Leipzig. I will join you lot, but I want to go into the Euros sorting out my future. Arsenal probably said, you know what, we'll sign you. But again, we needed to get some outgoings. The Euros was there and the accounting period. So that time loss, ultimately, you see what's going on. And that's why Arsenal actually never made a formal bid, as you can see here, people. Arsenal will continue to monitor his progress in Germany. He's expected to attract a significant market again next summer, and probably for a lot more than he was available now. Arsenal were relaxed about Sesko's decision, in large part due to Kai Havertz's excellent form up front. His release clause presented an opportunity, but apparently we felt we were already good with Havertz, Jesus, Nketiah, and Trossard. Now, big up Trossard and actually Gabriel Jesus. Jesus is injured, Nketiah is no more, and you're praying nothing happens to Kai Havertz. We know we brought in David Raya. We know we needed another midfielder. It appears, people, that Declan Rice will still be playing in the 8. You could reckon that it could, when you go to the Emirates, you do see the two midfielders in the pocket. So it could be two multifunctional kind of midfielders with Double M and Declan Rice. Declan Rice could move to the 6. Moreno could be the 8. Moreno could be the 6 at times, and Rice persists as the 8, really. I think Rice will do a lot better on his natural right-hand side with Benjamin White, Saka, indirectly Odegaard, if I'm honest with you. So I have to see. Arsenal discussed holding midfielders such as Martin Zubamendi and João Neves. Zubamendi, again, it's hard to price him from Sociedad. Neves, it cost a lot of money. You know how that story goes. He's going to end up at Paris Saint-Germain. Again, we got Mikel Moreno through the door. Mikel Arteta allegedly pushed for that, people. And yeah, apparently we first made contact with Calafori's agents in January, and dialogue increased in May. Apparently there were some reservations in relation to Ricardo, the knee injuries, whether he was physically robust enough. I mean, in the cameos he's made, I think he's put to bed that there was a 40% sell-on clause from Bologna to Basel, which obviously this was red tape. Chelsea got involved. He wasn't on that. Real Madrid kind of tempted his fate, but Arsenal had assured Calafori's camp they'd proceed with the signing. Of course, Smith Rowe ended up at Fulham, people. So I have to see. Fortunately for Arsenal, the Smith Rowe sale was not far behind. Smith Rowe's agent, Jordan Wise, had an open and respectful dialogue with Eddie across the summer. There was a mutual agreement that Smith Rowe had not played enough first-team football, and if a suitable offer arrived for him to move, the club would be prepared to engage in conversations. Smith Rowe obviously joins a London club. Hopefully he returns back to his best. We know we've already bought in Calafori. Apparently we're pleased with the prices we got for academy players. Mika Berev signed for his club, Studgras, for 4 million, which is their record fee. Some would argue, them being a Champions League club, could we have signed him to a new deal, whether he would have accepted that and not made more money? Brooke Norton-Cuffy, again, sell-on clause, 3.5 million quid, but he'll be sold to England, back to English shores for a profit. For me, I'm not happy with that personally, because he's played 100 times in the Championship. That's ridiculous. For Charlie Patino and his family, I think his dad's a boyhood Deportivo fan, and Patino obviously has Spanish blood, so it's good for him, and the Spanish La Liga / Segunda division is good for him. And again, I think Deportivo, that's one of their highest acquisition in recent years, but should be getting more money in that regards, if I'm honest with you. Of course, you look at Chido Obi Martin, Koza Jubri, Renell Waters, that's all going to tribunals because they all left for free, people. So we'll have to see where that's concerned. We all know Nketiah looks set to go to Nottingham Forest. That didn't work out. He's gone to Crystal Palace. Nelson's obviously linked up with former Haaland boys Iwobi, Smith Rowe, as well as former Arsenal player Leno at Fulham, and Fabio Vieira has gone out the door to Porto, people. So we'll have to see, really and truly. Arsenal had hoped to sell Kieran Tierney this summer, but the hamstring injury picked up in Euro 2024 would effectively rule him out of a move. He's not expected to return to training for several weeks yet. The subject of his future will likely be addressed in January. So for Tierney, you might get a couple occasional cup games. Other than that, I don't really know. You could fight your way into Mikel Arteta's plans, but it looks bleak in that regards. Nico Williams has spoken his future and said, "My heart is in Bilbao, but no one knows what will happen in the future. It's always good when big teams want you, but always said that I wanted to be here. If there was anything, it was from my agent, but I wanted to play in Europe with Bilbao." And again, apparently it's widely understood he was tempted by a move to Barcelona. Barcelona, Arsenal and Chelsea all remain big admirers of him, who still has a 58 million release clause in his contract. If you're Bilbao, you're trying to get him to sign improved terms and increase that. Szczesny, who's retired, has apparently said he turned down the opportunity to return to Arsenal. He said, "Sentiment kicked in and I was open to talks with Arsenal out of respect for the club, but I knew it wasn't for me. It was all about logistics. Something very significant would have had to happen for this move to happen. I didn't start talks with anyone, not even with Mikel. I could have made a phone call and reached an agreement. The Arsenal option came up before I terminated my contract with Juventus. I said, okay, we can talk, but 2 days later, I said it didn't make much sense." I wonder why it doesn't make much sense. I wonder why logistics is being said. Are you happy with England? Are you happy to move to Poland? Do you have any other plans away from football? If you didn't speak to Mikel, who did you speak to? Did you speak to Edu, which I'm pretty sure is the case, or did you speak to Richard Garlick? I don't know, and I can't answer that question, folks. We've already gone over the Leandro Trossard things. Is there anything new in relation to Arsenal Football Club at this moment in time? No, but where the transfer market's concerned, at the end of the day, it's shot, rightly or wrongly. We've got what we've got until January. Let me know your thoughts on Trossard, on Sesko, on Nico Williams, on everything we read in The Athletic. Don't forget to check out the rest of the content. Turn your notification bells on, people. The road to 70k subs is alive and kicking. Every comment, every like button, every bit of engagement boosts the YouTube algorithm. So yeah, man, I'd appreciate your support, and one love to you lot for listening and those who have done such already. On that note, stay blessed, stay safe, peace.
Always